Good evening, everyone out there in Super League world, in the champ community. Good evening, Happy New Year to you all. Fifey here for the first showing of the Super League in 2022, and I am joined by the legend behind the artwork that you've all witnessed for the first time tonight, Gazelle's boss, Mr. Craig Duggan. How are you, pal?
Hello, mate. How are you? All good. How's everybody doing? Happy. All the best. 24 hours left to land back at Graft.
Just a heads up for you, pal. Your volume or your commentary's just blipping in and out a little bit there. It was fine until I turned the mics up, but it's just sort of signaled out a little bit. So I'll keep an eye on that for you. Well, here we are, 2022. I mean, technically we're 2004, obviously, but how was your Christmas and New Year, pal?
It's very good. It was very quiet, chilled, kind of recharged the batteries. Seeing the kind of people that mattered, spent some time with me girls, and just laid quite low, mate, really, because the world out there is a little bit mad at the minute. So yeah, what about yours? Good?
Yeah, not too bad. Christmas was fairly quiet affair, but I did get to see plenty of Aiden. The bit between Christmas and New Year, much the same as everyone else's, not much happened. And then, as you well know, I managed to injure my ankle going for a run on New Year's Eve. So I spent New Year's Eve on my own, just led on the floor in darkness. And
yeah, I think you do like to tease us a little bit. I think people were sweating about tonight's show when you said you were off to A&E. So you're an absolute hero.
I was sweating about tonight's show when I said I was off to A&E. I was adamant that I was going to be there for 7 or 8 hours and then tell me it was broken and I'd have to stay overnight or something. But no, 45 minutes in and out, I won't have a negative thing said about the NHS. They weren't pissing about at me. They were like, yeah, let's get him out there. He's got things to do today.
Yeah, it was all that apple juice you were thinking of. The thought we're not having piss heads like him in this.
So we are at game week 4. Decent start to the season for your boys, mate. What have you made of it so far?
Oh, I don't think it's been a decent start at all, mate. I think we've flattered to deceive a little bit.
4 points from 3 games isn't too bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been the worst side in all 3 games, though, haven't we? You know, Hoole should have beat we. Dudley definitely should have beat we. And obviously Fulchester did, and probably should have beat we by more. So kind of in that weird place at the minute where the results have been better than the performances, which is sometimes what you want, and haven't yet been able to put the kind of first 11, first choice tactic on the pitch yet, because of being a little bit unlucky with a few injuries to kind of key players, especially a couple that I've brought in. But you know, we all deal with it across the 26 games. So yeah, I'm happy with the results, but not massively happy with the performances.
Well, obviously, your game's at the bottom of the list there, away at Devils, a team that I know a fair amount about. But other than that, any particular games you're looking forward to tonight?
Yeah, see how Dudley get on against Byrne. I think Steve's record's pretty good against Byrne, and for me, kind of Byrne aside, because you know they are an absolute, they're going to be a colossus this season. They were a colossus last season. I think the 2 teams that have really kind of piqued my interest this season so far is Astor and Dudley in terms of their performances, which I think have been very, very, very good. Yep. I think Steve has been the better of all 3 of his games.
Okay. With that in mind, was there any particular game you would like to start with tonight?
I quite like to see where the game takes us.
Yeah, I am fine with that. So we'll just make sure your game is left till last, and we will go in order as the game dictates, which gives us Bostock Stanley versus Locomotive Boston. Loco, somewhat surprisingly, again, only 3 games in, but find themselves bottom of the league and pointless. Has that surprised you a little bit, or considering who they've played, perhaps not so much?
It has, because Greavesy very rarely looks second best, even in games where you know he doesn't win or he doesn't come away with all 3 points, which is rare, you know, because he's a bit of a not lose first specialist, which he deserves massive respect for. Every season, Greavesy has kind of brought in players that I think have made him weaker, but he constantly kind of, you know, proves that he's better at this game than me. But this season, you know, he's gambled on some big, you know, flops. You know, Figo, Seedorf and Rivaldo are 3 players that have never really lit the place up. for anybody. I had Figo and Seedorf at Gazelles, and they were out the door, very, very, very quickly. But I think this season he needs to get a win quick. People are going to take points off each other left, right, and centre this season, but he's not someone who ever has had to tinker. And I think if he does need to start scratching around for something, he could struggle a little bit. However, in my pre-season predictions, I said that Greavesy is going to be bang average all season and then turn up for the last 10 games and do miles better than anyone expects for the squad that really shouldn't be performing. So it's still early days, yeah.
Well, as you can see, Greavesy has tweaked it slightly from his last game. He's put back to holding midfielders. He's calling this the mid-press point 2. I believe it was last season he did play for a few games the mid-press. So a return to something that did work last year, but with a couple of tweaks. When you see the 11 on paper, what's your initial thoughts?
Well, it's a full chest kind of classic anchor tactic. This I don't know who played it first, but this looks very much kind of like traditional Fulchester.
I think it's got more arrows than Fulchester.
Yeah, although to be fair, they've recently started putting the 2 arrows on the 2 DMs sitting there. The 3 across the middle, slight concern for me. Zambrotta, Seedorf and Figo, I think all 3 of them flatter to deceive. Delvecchio and Brugging, probably not the strongest AMC pairing, but Montella has been an absolute colossus for him, really. Getting big goals in games where he needs them. And I think if you've got someone with his finishing up at the top of the pitch, then you've always got to shout, really.
No, absolutely couldn't agree more. Let's have a look at their hosts, Bostock Stanley, who currently find themselves 4th in the table, 2 wins and a defeat. Similar to yourselves, with a 0 goal difference, scored 3, conceded 3. What do you make of Bostock early doors this season?
It's definitely the quietest that Scott's been, or definitely the quietest that Bostock have been since I've been kind of involved in the league in terms of pre-season. And I know the pre-season was relatively short. And I don't know if that was to do with kind of his struggles at the back end of last season, where he did really, really struggle to mount a playoff charge. Mm-hmm. Gambled big time on Ziriberto and Cafu, who are both getting on. We've already seen Ziriberto be injured. Cafu should really be fit for the full season because his physical stats are something to marvel at. Mm-hmm. But I think I love Boya as a single MC. Ashley Lyde is producing numbers for him in terms of stats. It's not as strong as previous Bostock sides, I wouldn't say. Bostock 1, Bostock 2, season-wise, were probably stronger than this for me.
The interesting selection choice, and I will pick up because we did mention when Jens was on last game round, Live and Welsh playing as a unit in the defensive midfield roles. But we do have a debut tonight up front with Anelka being dropped to the bench. Interesting selection choice for you?
Yeah, I like they're on a home save. I don't know the reasons behind kind of Scott dropping Anelka. I'm just picking up on something in the chat. Scott's obviously saying he made playoffs. I'm well aware because you picked me to it, but your form over the last 10 games was absolutely abysmal. So I'm just making the point that I was tipping you for second and first with 10 games to go last season, and then you fell off a cliff.
I was going to say, literally people were saying that Bostock had already won it with absolutely. 10 games to go.
10 games to go, they were flying and they looked unstoppable, and I was banging them in. And I say it with a pinch of salt because Scott obviously got the draw against me on the last game of the season and got the playoffs, and I didn't. So, but yeah, definitely a quieter, kind of more, I suppose humble is probably the wrong word, but definitely a more composed Bostock this season. Haven't seen as much social media output. They've just went about doing their business. The 2 wins were kind of really solid. I think they were both 1-0s off the top of my head. Can you just check that?
Yeah.
Solid. You take them every day of the week. You don't need anything other than to score 1 and to keep the opponent out. So, I don't want to come across like I'm slagging Scott off because he's very, very good at this game and his team are very, very, very good. But yeah, it's definitely a more solid Bostock, whereas I think previously with the likes of Ortega and Salva and some of the more attacking players that he had, Vicente, those sorts of things, I think he's definitely went for something a bit more solid this season.
And then just before I head to kick off, what I did mention, we all know that live stats are very, very good for this point in the save. And as I said, he's been he's been pushed forward into defensive midfield and being partnered by Welsh, who hasn't had so much of a look in over the seasons. He has featured, but not as much. What do you make of his development?
Yeah, fantastic. This is a time where now he is, on a home save, he'd be one of those players that's being, touted or tapped by kind of big clubs if he'd moved from Liverpool early, or if he was kind of still sitting there in the reserves. I think that kind of youthful energy, strength, stamina of those two DMCs is going to be solid. I think Bostock will win this. I'm going to go for a solid Bostock win, 2-1.
A solid Bostock win. Nice, good early prediction from you. Well, with that in mind, as we wait for the first couple of predictions to come through in the chat, let's kick off the opening fixture of the evening. And it has to be said, Duggan, as we do that, I did see a lot of comments early doors. People are loving the graphics you've put together for me. Thank you very much again.
No, it's all right, mate. Kind of suggestions of anything they want to see or anything that would tweak, like, it's not a closed shop. Like, happy to work on stuff if people got ideas.
Absolutely. Bostock get the first couple of predictions in with a 2-0 and a 1-0, and then a couple of 1-1 draws. We are half hour into the action, no goals yet, but Loco starting to come forward. Bostock then on the counter, seeing Zaire Bertone, Petit with a yellow card. First half seems to have gone quite quickly as we approach the whistle. Live getting a yellow card there as well, and there is half time. 0-0, and Loco have certainly created more chances. Does that surprise you slightly?
It does, but there's been a general trend this season where the text hasn't necessarily reflected the match stats in a lot of games, and I kind of made reference to that in a lot of games as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's definitely a 50-50 game where 10 offsides for Bostock. Be interesting to see who those players are that are running offside. I'm not sure that Harrison Vic is the kind of fastest and the paciest. It might be Roberto and Cafu.
When Jens was on, our eyes were sort of automatically drawn to the tackle count for some reason in the last game week. So just as you were talking now, I was having a look through some of the other stats, and I did pick up a couple of people I saw a mention of Bostock needing a sort of big aerial threat up top. So I was looking at Harasovic heading stats there, 4 attempted, only 1 won. Would that be a slight concern with him being the lone striker for you?
Not really, because of the quality of the crosses that are coming in, and the fact that he is playing against two big centre halves. He just needs to kind of take one of those chances, really. Of those headers, and I know kind of Mega Horse has got a theory about kind of headers not counting as shots on target. It's saying he's only had one shot and not on target. You need to just have a look who's been caught offside for him. Is he going to mind if you do that or not?
No, not
just
at
with
all. I'm just replying to a comment from Mr. Smuts there in the chat about me being quiet. I am just quiet compared to my co-commentator. That is all. My mic is purely on max.
Sorry, I should.
No, mate. I very much enjoy listening to your tone. So you carry on. Looking at the offside count there, Robbie Keane has the most with 4.
Yeah, and Kolosh, making the runs. It's the two AMCs that are trying to get in there. So, in terms of stats, 10 offsides, 3 or 4 of them don't get caught offside, and you've probably got 3 or 4 more shots to Bostock Stanley.
The debutant only lasted 45 minutes. He's being replaced by Anelka, and Saviola is also coming on for Mr. Offside. Do you agree with those changes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Scott didn't start Anelka. I'm sure there was a reason behind it. But yeah, he's the pick of the bunch in terms of attackers there.
As for Loco, as I click over to their stats, mate, we make a lot of the DM position being important, and there are, the likes of Keane and Vieira always get the mention, and then particularly on this incarnation of the Super League, we talk about Nicky Butt being an absolute animal. Someone who doesn't get the recognition perhaps he deserves all of the time is Petit. And again, I've been drawn to his tackle stats there. 12 attempted in that first half, 7 won. So it's not... It's over half, only just slightly over half, but he has been a very good player for Loco, hasn't he?
Yeah, very, very good. Last season, the kind of march to the playoffs, was directly in line with a kind of an upturn in Petit's form as well. And I think he even scored 2 or 3 goals on that kind of last 10-game run that they had. So yeah, if they're going to do the same again this season, there's 2 players that have really got to start performing for Logo, and that's Petit and Montella. They're the 2 players that you kind of highlight as being key for Logo.
Absolutely. Greasy's going as is, so we kick off the second half. Let's see if the attacking changes by the home side make a difference to the scoreline. Plenty of text in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the half, but no goals as of yet. And Petit, the man we talk about, picks up a second yellow and on the hour mark is sent off. With this being Greavesy, do you see maybe Del Vecchio being dragged off and Brugink being moved centrally?
No, I think he knows he needs to win. I think you probably go Kaluzny as the 1 DM and just roll with that. I can't really see him dropping the kind of goal threat. I think, even though it goes against everything that he's about, I genuinely think he knows he needs 3 points, and soon. While
we wait for Greavy's confirmation of how he wants to do this, I'm just going through the comments here. Smuts pointing out what we already knew, that Anelka got dragged at halftime last time. Scott's saying that he started Hausinvich because Tato peer pressured him, and Tato pointing out, I said you need a decent header of the ball to get the best out of your wing backs. Yes, Del Vecchio is being dragged off, so he is sticking to his mantra as opposed to going for the win, as you say. And Brugink is being moved centrally.
Interesting.
And I'm just enjoying watching Scott and Tato. I want to know who's actually in charge of Bostock tonight. Is it Scott or is it Tato?
Did you see that they've drafted in Campbell for the next stream after Africa went so bad? You must be in a bad place if you need Campbell to come on and save the stream, lads.
We move into the last 10 minutes. I've slowed the commentary down because I know everyone is a big fan of me doing so. I did pick that up in one of the chats the other day. And there's another red card, and now it's 10 man each as Live gets sent off. Scott isn't going to drag anyone off, is he? He's going to go 1 DM.
Yeah, 1 DM.
I will do that ready for Scott's confirmation. I have noticed seems to be a lot of red cards early doors this season.
Yeah, big time. Why? I don't know if it's because the stats of the attackers have just improved relative to the stats of every other position. It kind of 4 seasons in this league, but there's definitely something in it.
Oh no! So Bowyer is being moved back with a diagonal arrow to CM. Okay. This is a contender for worst game ever, says Rob. I don't know. 2 red cards. What more do you want? Slow that down. We are into the last 10 minutes. We now have 10 man each. And Montella, from the resulting free kick, has given the away side the lead. The commentary already saying that must be the winning goal. They're coming forward again. And another yellow card handed out by the referee, Mr. Ogston. Figo with a cross, and it's Montella, but it's gone horribly wide. Do you know what? I would tend to agree, Ian, about Bowie being on that side, but it's something I know not a lot of people, they see it as just central. So Cafu, and Anelka's equalised in the 89th minute. The substitute has worked wonders. Will we get an injury time winner? How can Rob say this game stinks? 2 red cards, 2 goals. It's got everything. And there is the full-time whistle. Plenty of drama to kick us off for the night. Bostock, Stanley 1. Locomotive, Boston 1. Chances created. Bostock's ratio of on target wasn't particularly impressive, but it did. They got the goal that mattered to earn them the point, and Boston themselves are off the mark. What did you make of that, Mr. Duggan?
A little bit like a game of chess. Kind of when I was saying pre-game that Bostock looked more solid and less expansive this season, I'd seen a comment from Scott where he said his business was built around them being more expansive.
Yep.
And I don't think we've ever yet any evidence of that. 4 games in, he's had 2 1-0 wins. It's the 4th game on the bounce where he's only scored 1. So yeah, listen, I think it's a really solid Bostock side that's going to do well this season. Not really seeing the expansive football that Scott's kind of promising at the minute. Greavesy will be gutted about that. He doesn't like losing leads, especially with only 10 minutes left to play. Mm-hmm. But when you've got Miller in the team, the two key players for them, one got sent off and one scored the goal that got them a point. But 1 point's better than none, and Greavesy's off the mark.
Absolutely, and just having a look at their stats here, to be honest, when you look at the match stats and combine it with the individual player stats, it's actually a really good away performance, I think.
Yeah, solid away point. I think Greavesy would have probably took it before ball was kicked, really. But the nature of it, he's probably kind of sick a little bit there. Scott's making the point that he went 3 up top first 2 games, and the opponents kind of shut him out, which is absolutely fair enough.
Let's move on to game 2, and it's the one you mentioned earlier, Northern Byrne versus Dudley Hill. Northern Byrne who find themselves top of the league, perhaps unsurprisingly, undefeated, one of only 3 clubs still undefeated, 2 wins and a draw from their first 3 games, and they line up in familiar fashion, although there is a couple of changes. Gustavo Lopez comes in to attack in midfield, and the man everyone's been waiting to see get a run, Martin Morgan, gets a starting place as well.
Yeah, interesting, because Steve has been quite solid in his midfield over the last couple of games, and that definitely weakens them in the midfield. But yeah, Morgan looks solid, and fair play to Ian for kind of giving him a run and getting him in there and seeing what he can do. Quite like that move. And over Ljungberg as well, who was probably the best auction buy ever in the history of Super League, really, in terms of last season. He definitely played a huge role in getting Byrne that first star on the badge.
Yeah, I thought he was incredibly underrated. He played a lot more than virtually any auction player and never let Byrne down.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think the only auction player that played more was Guy Helmer for me, and he ended up with 2 fewer goals than him, so and probably played half the game. So he was definitely the pick of the auction ever, really, and probably a good justification as to why the auction kind of has its place.
And you've had a lot to say about Northern Byrne over your tenure in the Super League, and generally it's about how strong they are and how you think they're almost uncomparably strong to every squad, if not every squad bar Devils in the league. Do you see any weakness at all in their team?
If Sigalko gets a big injury, then obviously they're going to be struggling. They've let Smith go. They're not. Although I do like the out of the league signing with Osonla. He was one I kind of had my eyes on as well. I think it's and for all me kind of jibbing on Twitter and all that sort of stuff, which is only ever said in jest and never meant with any kind of real malice. You take Sigalko out of this side and Byrne score probably less than half the goals they would otherwise score. And I know that's the same for everybody else in the league, but Sigalko is kind of a beast of his own, really. So I think the worry would be if Sigalko was to get a big injury, then you're losing half the goals that are in this team at least, without looking at any stats from last season.
And just looking at everyone now giving me options of other really good auction signings, Chris Sutton is obviously a great shout. Hakan Meal, 21 starts, has been mentioned. Balde as well is a very good shout. I will pull out Smuts for his shout of Maresca. Maresca, who was signed in the auction this year and then not even put in the 24, tells you how good he is.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Dudley, who, as you say, despite their position of 11th, 1 win, 2 defeats, they've actually performed, in my opinion, better than their points target suggests. As you say, you were quite fortunate to get the win against them, and then last time out, I mean, that was heartbreaking for Steve. We know he did not react well to this game at all, did he?
No, and I think Meg had 3 games on the when will Steve's head fall off bingo card. So Dan has won the 20 quid that we whipped around the rest of the league. So taking this way to Dan. I didn't have 3. I mean, I had 4 games, but I didn't have 3 games. But listen, he's been the better side in all 3 that he's played, and I quite fancy him to get a result tonight.
Well, this is how they line up. Very similar to the last game. Guerrero's moved forward. so that Zanoni can come in. There's been very, very little, by the way, of changing it dramatically, which is important for Steve. And he did want me to highlight, after he went on a bit of a rage in the last show and put Dudley in before we'd even finished the last show, he did send a revised tactic in called Dudley Hill Dummy in. And I thought that was a touch of class on his part.
Yeah, because the 5 people trying to stop him from ringing the Samaritans, mate. You know what I mean? It was that bad. He was in a bad way. So yeah. Listen, I quite think I think he could get top 6. Now I've seen the teams play. I know I didn't predict that in my prediction thread, but based on performances, he's been miles better performance wise than Gazelles have been, 100%.
Can I ask you for your score prediction for this one then, please?
I'm going to back the Dudley, back the ball sack. I'm going to go Dudley Hill 2-1.
I was kind of expecting you to say a draw, but you're actually backing them to win the game. Interesting.
Yeah.
Mega Horse saying, I was gutted we didn't see his sock abuse, but delighted there was no sack abuse. Let's kick the game off while we wait for our first predictions in through... Oh, hang on. Let me remember this from last time. Switch it over to live chat, and Alf was first in with 3-0, and Dimble says back the ball sack. 12 minutes in, and it is Dudley on the attack, but offside. To be fair to Dudley, again, it seems to be their attacking players certainly more involved than Byrne at the moment. Gustavo Lopez name that, however, comes up. There's a yellow card issued. Interesting one. When you've got Keane and Vieira, obviously Keane is the one with the Northern Byrne armband. Who would you be tending to give it to in that situation?
I think Vieira is slightly less of a red card risk, so probably Vieira.
Okay.
But I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
And we reach half time at the conclusion of that comment, and Dudley Hill again are the better side in the half, but failing to capitalise. Steve will be quite pleased looking at that, won't he?
He will be, but he'll be absolutely, he'll be on standby for what is no doubt about to come. But got to start getting results, hasn't he? Because it's just going to be a heartbreaking season. Otherwise, he can't with 26 games being the better team and getting fuck all.
Looking at the Byrne stats, unsurprising to see Toldo as the top-rated performer when you consider the amount of chances Dudley Hill have created. Surprisingly, when I look at it, Jorgatos hasn't been overly involved in terms of passes or anything, and he's normally a good outlet for them.
Yeah, he has kind of shut down the DMLs, DMRs in all the games that he's played on the 3 sides that he has played. And I think, on Byrne, I can never remember Northern Byrne looking out of a game at half time. I can never remember them being 2-0 down at half time or 3-1 down at half time. They just appear to be solid front to back with quality up top, and they never ever are out of games. And I think, obviously, Edwards never likes to make a change. It's quite a fortunate position to be in if you never have to make a change at half time, or you never feel like your hand's pushed, because you've never been. So it's quite a luxury to have. It's a massive, massive testament to how good this side is front to back.
No, absolutely. Well, I'll wait for Ian's confirmation. He doesn't want to make his usual change. We have a look at Dudley Hill, who have performed very well. Igor Tudor there, the man rated an 8 at half time. It's the 3 players in the attacking positions rated the lowest, which is slightly surprising when you consider how much they've created, but maybe more of a reflection on their inability to create the assist for the goal, etc.
Yeah, and that's the side where Steve isn't 100% happy in terms of the configuration of that kind of front triangle, that front 2 and the 1 or the 1 and the 2. But also, you look at what they're playing against with Byrne. So Vieira's sitting there, and Byrne's 2 centre halves are no joke. So he's...
Mark your calendar, because Ian has made a half-time sub.
There we go. Nice.
Freddie Youngberg coming on, Mr. Dependable, in a slightly more advanced role than he normally plays for Byrne, but he's coming on for Lopez. So again, a player who's been experimented on, only lasts the 45 minutes. Steve, on the other hand, who is usually one for a half-time sub, is going as is. Do you see Youngberg making a difference now?
Yeah, sometimes you get Is Gustavo Lopez former Dudley Hill as well, I think?
Yes, I believe he is, yes. And we reach the hour mark, still 0-0. Plenty of yellow cards again being handed out, so we know someone's about to get sent off. Another yellow card as I say that. That 10 minutes flew by with very little happening. And it's Del Piero with the free kick, deflects off the wall. It still looks to me, I don't know if you would agree, but it still looks quite Dudley Hill dominated, really.
Yeah, definitely. There was a bit of text where it said Dudley withheld the pressure just after half time. But this is kind of Sigalco o'clock now.
Yeah, Kaladze, the latest man to get a yellow card. Seems to have been a lot of yellow cards in this game. But here come Byrne, and as you say, everyone in seeing things in the chat as well. Everyone seems to know what's about to happen when you consider the dominance. The keeper lets one spill, but Dudley managed to clear their lines and withhold the pressure. Moving towards injury time now. Kaladze, but Toldo sends it upfield. Guerrero picks it up, and now Hoffland. Neither side seems to be able to maintain possession as we move into injury time, and there is the full-time whistle. Northern Byrne 0, Dudley Hill 0. And, well, it looked like Dudley were a lot more involved, but I don't think they actually created anything in that second half, have they?
No, not really. Against a side like Byrne, you're not going to have kind of 245s where you're on top. I think the important thing was at the key moments, he held on and kind of didn't concede, because I think, if you were a better man in play, you probably would have chucked money on Byrne in the last 10 to nick it. And, going away to Northern Byrne and taking a point and a clean sheet is a good result.
I think Stee is someone who has taken both comedically and factually a lot of stick over his years at Dudley Hill. So to pick up, as I look at the Northern Byrne stats here, to pick up on two positives for him, Cannavaro getting man of the match says a lot, and Sigalco rating a 6, having only had 2 shots on goal, I think is very, very good from his side.
Yeah, really good. Again, on Byrne, really difficult to beat. The thing is, I think one of the big things for Dudley now is everybody watching this is impressed at the performances they're putting in, and I think that just gives Stee a really easy decision to make every week in terms of the tactic and the instructions, and you can almost get inside your own head and kind of box your own head off, really.
Yeah,
it's a much easier, you've got a settled tactic and you just fit the 11 in around that, and the teams that do well in this league, Northern Byrne probably more so than anybody else, have played the same tactics for probably about 2.5, 3 seasons, and not changed, maybe with the exception of a couple of little tweaks. But definitely massive signs of promise. I think of the 14 teams we've seen so far, Dudley are definitely one of the ones that I think I've been most impressed by.
And just briefly on Northern Byrne before I click over to Dudley's stats, I mentioned Jorgatos at half-time. He was certainly more involved in the second half. Freddie Youngberg came on and did bits without really impressing to his usual high standard, which might be a slight concern. But all in all, it was a good defensive performance, really, from Byrne more than anything, wasn't it, this time round?
Yeah, and you've got to respect the opposition and just, when you have had a bit of a stalemate, just take the point and get out of there. Loads of yellow cards there. That is mental.
That is, yeah. I mean, if you look, Byrne had 2, and unsurprisingly, really, who the 2 are. But yeah, I mean, that's 2, 5. That's 7 out of the 11 Dudley Hill players picking up yellow cards there. It's almost remarkable that none of those players have been sent off.
Yeah. Has Sigalco scored yet this season?
Sorry?
Has Sigalco scored yet this season?
No. He scored on international duty, but not for Byrne.
Yeah, I've just seen Ian C's due a goal. Yeah.
Again, looking for positives for Stee. I don't know how much other people tend to read into this thing. I know they do with regards to injuries, although I think that's a bit of a false narrative. But I do like to see players that have seemingly worked hard, and to see a few players there in the mid-70s condition wise. The likes of Rustico and Tudor means that they have worked hard. They've put the effort in that game. Zanoni as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think working so well because those 4 DMs across that back line or that second line are grafting so hard and putting the effort in for them.
Absolutely. Game number 3 sees us go to Spartak Sloths as they entertain Haggis Hunters. Haggis currently find themselves 7th, 1 point below the dotted line. They obviously started the season with that massive defeat at Dudley, but since then they had the really inspiring win away at Devils before a draw last time out against Northern Byrne. So that's 2 impressive results, really, isn't it, for Haggis leading into this game?
Yeah, big time. It's good for the league when Haggis does well, because when Haggis are doing well and when Campbell's involved and he's sticking out videos and he's giving people crap on Twitter, the league benefits from it. So you definitely want Haggis to do well this season. It's when Haggis do absolutely shite. Like last season, that stream where he was on and he was singing, it's full time because he got the winner and it was class. And then Haggis's form fell off the face of the earth and we didn't hear from him for about 6 months. So definitely a fan of Haggis doing well. Good and good for everybody else content wise.
And so we come to look at their lineup for this game, and he's another manager who seems to have settled down a little bit. He's tweaking a couple of things in the background each time, but the setup, as you'll see here, largely the same. There's one personnel change there with Danielson coming in to attack in midfield. Obviously, we don't need to go over old ground. A lot was made of his transfer dealings. I think Mendieta is, perhaps his rating isn't suggesting so, but I think Mendieta is one of the players who's rising to the occasion each week of now being the big name player at Haggis personally.
He always stays fit, kind of very rarely does lower than a 7. I'm just not sure you're getting the output from him in terms of goals and assists, although MC is notoriously hard to do that from in terms of kind of the game and the game engine. I think what's great to see is that he's given Saha a run because his stats look class on this save, and he's playing Shevchenko up top. The decision to play Shevchenko as an AMC for me was baffling, really.
Well, I mean, just to put in perspective, that Saha's already got 3 goals this season. That was in 1 game, obviously, and that eclipsed his totals for the last 2 seasons combined.
Yeah. I'm just picking up. Edwards has just said, definitely going to rise to Duggan's bait and point out the disrespect of the use of our badge. Is that because I haven't put the star on or something? Is that what it is?
1 second, and I will soon tell you.
Rise to bait and point out the disrespect of the use of our badge.
I'm guessing so. I did see the one earlier about Leddersford have a new badge now, but to be fair to you, that's only fairly recent, and you've been working on this for a little while now, so that we can change. I'm guessing he can only mean because it hasn't got the star on it, yes.
Okay. Listen, I was the first person that was well aware of that star, and it was coming, and all the shit was going to bring me, in particular, Ian, after saying 9 seasons of being in the league, you didn't have a star. So, I'll if you send us over the 2 new PNGs for you and Leddersford, I'll get them added on the stream overlay and send them over to Fifey, and it'll be ready for next week. My sincerest apologies for the disrespect.
We have a look at the Sloths team then. They find themselves 8th with a win, a draw, and a defeat so far this season. Again, 4 points. Last time out, they had the 3-2 win over Loco, where Zlatan came off the bench to score the winner. He starts this week, as does Alan Shearer, as 2 changes up top. I'm interested in your thoughts on the slight tactical change. Last game, as I click here, you'll notice Desai was in the defensive midfield with Undayi in centre mid. They swapped around this time.
Yeah, I think best numbers come from being DM. I just don't think he's got the kind of forward output to be a good quality CM, and he's an absolute beast in there. But saying that though, Desai, does he have the legs to kind of play CM now? He's 36. But again, much like Haggis, the league is a better place when Sloths do well. Like one of the funniest things I've seen, and it was just a minor little tweet last week after the kind of the defeat of Leddersford, I think. He tweeted, he said there was going to be a media blackout, but he tweeted that there was going to be a media blackout. He told everybody in the media that there's going to be a blackout before there was a blackout. And like the league is definitely a better place when Sloths and Haggis are doing well.
So obviously Zlatan, another player who's come through the auction, he hasn't really had any time at Loco prior to this move. But when you see his stats there, is he another player who has organically developed, do you think, or will he never reach Super League quality, in your opinion?
I don't know. For me, he's not a player that I've had massive success with on home saves. But when I have had success, stats have never looked amazing anyway. He's kind of one of those players where sometimes the performances you get from him don't reflect the stats that he actually has. So yeah, I like the inclusion. He's in form. He's got a goal. It was a big goal as well. Get him in there.
I don't know if you can hear my phone going off in the background. I'm guessing the person who I keep getting messages to say looks like me won his darts semi-final because my phone is going mental behind me. I've tried to keep it away from the laptop so you can't hear it, but it just keeps going off in the background.
Listen, you know me, mate. If I could hear your phone doing that vibration thing, I'd be absolutely calling you out on
it. What's your score prediction for this one, please, pal?
2-2.
2-2. Excellent. Let's kick this one off then and see how we get on. Saha with an early attempt at a bicycle kick, but Sloth's got the other edge, and it's Zlatan with his second goal in 2 games who opens the scoring. Good start that for the Sloths, and they're coming forward again, looking to double their lead. There's Zlatan again. And it's Shearer, so on his debut, so both the players brought in today, and another red card. And this time it's Danielson. Wow. This has gone from bad to ugly to awful already for Haggis. 2-0 down and now a man down. Are you expecting Shevchenko pulled back or Saha pulled back?
I would pull Saha back, to be honest.
You think Saha?
Yeah, I would back. I think he's better as an AM than Shevchenko is.
Yen's already saying Twitter is going to be loud this week. And get that up, you chuckle brothers. It looks like he's sticking with 2.
Yeah, Aro Mendieta.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Oh, let's speed that up again. Rob, so Tato's gone Alf out and Rob's gone Campbell in. 16 minutes on the clock then. It's all going off in this game already. Can Haggis find a way back? Oh, yep, Stam has scored. Wow. This game's more entertaining than Chelsea-Liverpool was earlier.
And another red.
And Shearer scored again. It's 3-1 to Sloths. What? Now this is entertainment. This is why people don't pay their TV license anymore, because they can get this sort of content on the internet. Ian's saying get this over with, for fuck's sake. Well, sorry, man. Do you know what? You look at those stats and it's actually been a fairly even half. It's just Sloths have been very, very efficient in front of goal.
The kind of be up top. I think Rob is definitely the manager that is kind of the best at getting 3 up top working. I know a couple of other people have tried it. I've tried it. I know Scott's tried it. Boss Dog, a couple other people. But he just seems to know how to make it work, really. Even with 33, 34-year-old Alan Shearer.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned Desai playing in centre midfield. He's the lowest rated player for Sloths at half time. And then you see it's actually Babayaro who's rated a 9, as is a man that you know a fair amount about, Raul, someone else who flattered to deceive in the Super League.
Yeah, doing better. So credit to him. I tried Raul in just about every single formation there was, really. So he's doing miles better than I did with him. Albertini for Desai, I like that. Good move.
Having a look at Haggis, and not surprised to see Casillas getting a 5. There's a few 7s knocking about. It's not been awful. It's just not been great, and they have been playing with 10 men for a long time. Really, is the way to look at it. I think he'll be disappointed in terms of the width that Duff and Cole haven't had more of an impact, maybe.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a post-match video about the keeper again. Haggis just cannot find the keeper that does not let them down. Or Haggis have only got keepers that let them down, with 5s or 4s every other game or every couple of games. So that'll no doubt be the kind of focus. And he's going Torres for Saha as well.
Yeah, that surprises me with the form that Saha's. I say the form. He's only scored it in one game, but he did score 3 in that one game. And he's also replacing his goalkeeper. Not the first time we've seen him do this when conceding a few at half time.
Yeah. I thought they might have are outside of the league, but I know the kind of DMRC they ended up getting in. I thought they were nailed on to go out and get a decent out of the league goalkeeper, but not to be.
Well, let's see how the changes affect things here. We're already at the hour mark, no additional goals yet. But I have seen Torres' name a couple of times, so he's certainly getting involved. And you just feel at this point, if Haggis were to get one, they might equalise, because they're certainly not out of it. I am going to slow it down. Shevchenko with a volley, but it goes over the bar. There's a discussion going on in the chat regarding all of Haggis's options at goalkeeper. Another yellow card handed out. This time I believe it was for Ndiaye. Time is now running out for Haggis. I don't see it happening, unfortunately for them. But Sloth's come forward again, looking, and it's Shearer on a hat trick. Didn't happen for him. And it's another corner. Sloth's looking to put a final nail in the coffin. Throw in Duff, Shevchenko. And it's a corner to Haggis as we move into injury time. Torres. And there is the final whistle. And it does finish Sloth's 3, Haggis 1. Again, though, it stayed even throughout. Haggis, slightly unfortunate that Sloths were just very good in front of goal in that first half.
Yeah, and this the rumour is this is Sloth's time of the season, isn't it? The first 10 games they get off to a flyer and then it all falls apart. So fair play. How many of those goals were from set pieces? I think both the Shiraz looked as though they were from set pieces.
So Ibrahimovic came from a from a Raul cross. Sorry. Shearer's goals. That came from a Babayaro cross, and that's Yapstam. Where's Shearer's other goal? There we go. Ibrahimovic knocked it on, and Shearer scored from the loose ball.
Yeah.
And
Sloth's on 7 points now, was it?
Yes.
2 wins and a draw. I mean, that's good. 7 from 12. Probably take that massively. And Haggis, I think probably still the jury's still out on him.
The red card given as Danielson was holding back Ibrahimovic. Was it a second yellow? No, straight red for holding back seems a bit harsh.
Last man, or?
I wouldn't suggest so, because he'd only just gone past Jeremy, so he's still looked to be sort of midfield area. But yeah, that is the situation with regards to the goals and the red card. Huge win that for Sloths. In terms of trying to build some momentum. As you said, they are notoriously better early part of the season than late on. And also we know what that'll mean for him personally. His social media, there'll certainly be no blackout this week.
No, and the front all doing 8s and being right involved. And Ndiaye just controlling the game from midfield, from that DM role. Didn't win all the tackles, but he put himself about, won headers, made the most passes. He's for me, in terms of not necessarily in terms of raw stats, but in terms of performances, he's a better DM on this game than Vieira.
And Albertini, I quite often have a quick look at the subs to see how much of an impact they have when they're brought on. Albertini certainly putting in the shift that Desai wasn't able to in that first half. Let's have a look at Haggis and see what they were able to achieve. Jeremy's there with his 9 rating. He continues to have a good season. Ashley Cole managed to up the output a little bit, moving his rating up to a 7. But there's just too many. I mean, we obviously know Danielson was sent off early. Luis Saha was pulled at half-time for not putting in his usual levels of performance. Torres came on and got involved. The ratings aren't awful from Haggis's standards. I think it was just the man disadvantage really hurt them.
And the keeper again.
And the keeper.
Do you know? Yeah.
Do you expect now, when you look at that situation and see that they've had 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 defeats, and the defeats have been, with no disrespect to the club's names, Sloths and Dudley, whereas the win and the draw came against Devils and Byrne, is inconsistency going to cost Haggis? Is there something he perhaps still needs to look at, or will he pick up more points than drop playing the way he is at the moment?
Should pick, but they need to solve this keeper issue, because that's now 2 games out of 4 where a keeper's cost them the game. And that's 50% of the games where a keeper's cost them. So that needs to be sorted pretty sharpish.
Ask and you shall receive, Mr. Smuts, as the game engine has brought Fulchester v Dragons next. The hosts currently find themselves second, 6 points with 2 wins and a defeat. Last time out, obviously, was the victory over yourselves, where Ronaldo did score the winner on the 31st minute. And in terms of stats, it was as good an away performance as I can remember from any side for a long time.
Yeah, I match that. It's the best performance I've seen in absolutely ages. As soon as they played that flat 4 across the middle, and I knew I was in a bit of trouble, because that 4 is as good as anything else in the league, and they're probably one of the only sides, if not the only side, that can actually play ML and MR with genuine MLs and MRs. And I couldn't lay a glove on them. Gambled a little bit with the formation, but they were very, very, very good. Bringing Ryan in is shrewd. We know in the past Macca has kind of lost his head sometimes when there've been defeats. Last season they were phenomenal with Macca at the helm by himself.
Yep.
Having that kind of second person to bounce ideas off and to keep your head screwed on when things go tits up is a really good move. There's a lot of players in there that I don't particularly like, but they do a hell of a job of getting tunes out of them. Nedved, Owen, Yepes, not massive fans of those. Buffon, even, I think he's a bit of a liability, but Fulchester are a very, very, very good side, and they'll be top 2 this season.
And they've kept the same tactic that they played against you. The only change, the injured Ronaldo replaced by the big money auction signing Djibril Cissé.
Yeah. Stats-wise, looks okay, but I know Dimble absolutely hated him at Churchtown because he just never turned up. But with no disrespect to Dimble, because it's a work in progress and not a side he inherited, and not a side that he built himself. Sorry, Cissé in Churchtown compared to Cissé in Fulchester, with the rest of the quality they've got through the 11, is probably going to be a bit of a different beast.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have a look then at a squad that you're familiar with, but it's not the same squad you left 2 seasons ago now. Smuts and Jamie at the helm as it stands currently, and this is the tactic that they've gone with. David's playing in the central midfield role, which I think is a good move. Cole and Zidane supporting Clivert, so the Morientes experiment lasted 1 game before dropping back to 1 up top. Defensively, I think they look quite strong, but do they have enough in attack to get enough goals to win enough games to get enough points?
They should do, because if Clivert is better than when Dragons finished top and had Constantino. Cole is now another 2 seasons on and should be better developed. Archie Back, who fair enough is injured at the minute, should be in there as the second AMC and is again 2 seasons on. Davids is still there. They haven't got Zielius, but Said and Gattuso are solid. Bauman, Emmett, not good. Very good Bauma even, and they should be doing a hell of a lot better than what they have been doing. They have looked really solid defensively. I just think for me there's a bit too much arrows going on there. I think when you ask Said and Gattuso to start pushing forward and doing things that aren't really within their comfort zone, it leaves you open a little bit. And I think they could be a little bit exposed against that Fulchester attack tonight, rather than Said and Gattuso sitting in there.
Okay. Score prediction, please, sir.
I'm going to go 3. It kills us to say it because I'm always a dragon, but I'm going to go 3-0 Fulchester.
Okay, let's kick this one off and see what happens. Do you have, knowing Jamie as well as you do, and being familiar with Smuts and his personality, do you have concerns that a negative result and heads will really start to roll if they haven't already, even at this early stage?
I don't know. I think that's half time already. Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was filling it with that question, because I could see the commentary flying through.
Yeah, I think to be fair to Hopkins, he was always kind of a background manager. You know, he always kind of just went about his business and kind of just cracked on.
Okay.
In terms of Smuts, I think, you know, when he first came in for those last 6 or 7 games, there's definitely a lot of fucking around going on. And if you think back to Dragons' first season, we fucked about with it massively. And he's kind of having to learn what other people have learned in 3.5, 4 seasons in 6 or 7 games. Everybody has learned more about Super League and about the game during lockdown because we've had so much time to play it and watch it. So my concern would be that kind of Smuts as an assistant is having to learn a lot about Super League and about the tactics and about player instructions relative to what he would normally do on his home saves with his Marescas and his Anchovies and all that sort of stuff. And the games will run out pretty quickly. But that looks.
Sorry, carry on.
But that looks very solid.
Absolutely. Fulchester then, as we look, Buffon, you mentioned him. He can be, he is culpable for throwing in sort of a 5-1 in every sort of 6 or 7 games. But generally speaking, I think his ratings are fairly consistent. And again, he's there with the 8. Ryan Giggs' output perhaps not what is expected. Veron's output certainly not what is expected from Fulchester. But I think that the midfields are potentially cancelling each other out. There's a lot of bodies in there.
Yeah, and this is him for Fulchester. A 2-7-1 has kind of nullified them a little bit. Hools played a 2-7-1 and got the 1-0 win against them, kind of shutting them out and being clinical with Crespo at the other end. I probably should have went with a 7-1 against them, but didn't. Try to be a little bit more expansive. So definitely, I think the point about the wing backs and the MLs, MRs cancelling each other out, and then that stack of bodies through the middle is probably cancelling each other out a little bit. I think this game could just come down to who takes a chance out of Clivert and Owen. If there isn't the kind of traditional Michael Owen, Chris Sutton, whoever it is that's up top, half-time sub.
Both the members of the C-suite management team are in, and Maka has gone as is. Let's have a look at Dragons. Defensively, again, the ratings are consistent. As we said, the midfields look to be virtually cancelling each other out. Is the key here, we mentioned it, or I asked the question pre-game, is the key here for the free attacking players to have more of an impact in this second half now?
Yeah, massively. I mean, Zidane, it's been said 100 times already, but what has he actually done that half? You know, he's played 45 minutes and he's done absolutely nothing. He's done nothing. Little Joey Cole, who's about 4'5", is won 2 headers. Zidane hasn't even left the grass once. Yeah, considering how well he starts at the start in terms of like current ability and the game engine and all that sort of stuff, it's just a shambles. Archie back in this 11 is 100 times the upgrade on Zinedine Zidane as an EMC.
And that's the joy of this game, I think, when you get to make statements like that and they're not classed as controversial or even stupid.
Yeah.
As usual, I've not seen Jamie in the chat, so I'll just wait for Mr. Smuts to confirm if he wants any changes. When you see that bench, would you be making any changes?
I mean, the only one I'd be maybe Van der Vaart for Zidane, just in the hope that he's going to do more. Probably, I absolutely couldn't justify keeping Zidane on for another 45 minutes after that.
Well, no, Zidane is coming off, but it's Morientes that's coming on. Do you understand why he's gone with Morientes?
Maybe finishing. Hopes that I think Morientes is about 19-20 for finishing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is Fulchester with Michael Owen's first goal of the season that opened the goal scoring. After Dragons appear to have 1 or 2 chances, do they have it in them to equalise, or will Fulchester begin to dominate here? Yellow. Oh, and Ryan Giggs has been sent off. Another red card. This will be Nedved pulled back and Cisse central, I would imagine.
How many is that tonight? 4?
Yes, I think that's the 4th one tonight, yeah. Which means that's probably somewhere in the region of 10 already this season.
Crazy.
It's an unreal amount of red cards. And Smut's saying he's going to lose 1-0 every fucking game this season. Nedved to ML and Cisse Central, as you said. So we're going like that. Maka, just confirm if you want Cisse to have his diagonal arrow like that, or if you want him no arrow. Didn't realise Dragons had a woman in the team. What have I missed in the Dragons team?
I don't know.
I'll confirm that change just while I wait for Maka to confirm if he wants an arrow or not. I don't get it, if I'm honest. That's the second thing Dan's put in the chat tonight that I've not understood. No arrow is okay. Cool. Let's carry on then. So Fulchester a goal up but a man down, and as I hit continue, Patrick Kluivert picks up an injury. That's a nightmare for Dragons. I will preempt what's going to happen here. Move Morientes up top and Van der Vaart into AM. Do you imagine that's what Smuts will come back with?
Yeah, he's got to, hasn't he? That could be massive. They shipped out Kesman. I don't think they've got anything massively decent in terms of backup options for Morientes, and obviously he's dropped for this game, so he's going to have to have a run of games now.
And last time out they played with no strikers on the bench because they had Morientes and Kluivert start, and obviously Back was injured. Zuma's their other option from memory. He was injured. Swap Cole. Okay, like that. That's fine. Cool. So that's that sub confirmed. So now with Kluivert's injury, that derails really most, if any, chance of them getting back into this. Would you say?
No, because but it's a massive. I mean, Brian and Maca will be sitting there really happy that he's not on the pitch now.
Moving into, we've got 5 minutes plus added time to go. It was Morientes and Cole linking up there, and Morientes again, and again Morientes, and he has scored. And maybe sticking a shush sign up in the direction of his manager and assistant manager who dropped him for this game. It is 1-1, and the Spaniard has got his side back into this. But here come Fulchester again, and it's going to be a corner. Beckham floats it in, and Yepes, but a good save from the keeper. Beckham floats another one in. Veron, Owen. And we move into injury time. And we have another draw this evening. Fulchester 1, Dragons 1. A late Morientes goal. And to be fair to Dragons, it was probably deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Smuts has done a lot of speaking in the last kind of week or so in terms of the individual instructions and team instructions and things with Jamie. It's going away to Fulchester and matching them in terms of shots on and kind of keeping them to one. Definitely something to build on. The big concern, the big story is how long Kluivert will be out for.
Well, we will be finding that out sooner rather than later. Let's have a look at the hosts first then, who look set to pick up a victory. They took the lead and then Ryan Giggs got sent off before the late concession of the goal. Again, though, stats-wise, there's a lot of passing going on, a lot of completed passing going on. A lot of the battles seem to be won. There wasn't a large amount of tackles not completed. Most of the shots seemingly on target as well. It wasn't a poor performance by them by any stretch of the imagination.
No, definitely not. Another game where 2-7-1 has kind of had their number a little bit and been fairly solid against them. So that might just be the recipe for this, amazing 4 across the midfield that they play. Definitely one that got away for Fulchester though, with Byrne dropping points. They could have went clear at the top, I think, if they had a won. So they'll definitely be kicking themselves a little bit, but no shame in when you see that Dragons front 11 front to back. It's decent, it's good. Something take your point and run.
Gattuso takes man of the match for his performance. Shiotes as well, impressing. The 2 substitutes coming on and having a significant impact as well. Again, it seems to be a recurring story this season, but as away performances go, that's really quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think conceded more than 1 in 4 games now. 1-0 twice, drew ones each twice. I think that's off the top of my head. So that, you know, defensively they're really solid. They just need to kind of sort out what's happening up top really. And Clivert's on 58%. Is that 58% fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe not the worst one, but you never know. You just never know.
Picking up on what Ian said in the chat there then, Doug, and before we continue, he says, I think it's going to be a right slog this season, nobody looking at pulling away just yet. Now, again, it has to be said, we are only in game week 4, but do you see that coming into fruition, or do you expect the likes of, say, Byrne, Fulchester, Devils to pick up form and consistent form sooner rather than later? I mean, Byrne are still undefeated, let's be fair.
Yeah, I do think it'll test that and then the rest. But yeah, I agree that I think it is going to be a slog. I think everybody's going to be taking points off everybody this season. And I think there's going to be loads of games that are 50-50, even ones that don't appear to be 50-50. There's like that, you know, I think Swan's prediction, I think everybody, bar 2 people had predicted a Fulchester win. 2 people had predicted draws, I think. Mm-hmm. Nobody predicted Dragons to win, but that game was a flip of a coin, both with the same amount of attempts.
Again, just on that note, have to give Swan another shout out because his Super League Super 7 is a quality addition this season.
Big time. I know the first round of Swanee's stats are imminent, so can't wait to get my hands on them as well.
Game number 5, are we on now for the evening? Yeah, game number 5 is Churchtown hosting Leddersford, 2 managers you know particularly well. Leddersford last time out had the 1-0 defeat to Bostock, which saw Van Nistelrooy pick up an injury as well. The tactic formationally doesn't really change from Dan anymore, but he does tweak bits. Again, he's one of these that tweaks stuff in the background every week. He's a real student in the game, isn't he? And he knows all the dark arts.
Student, you know, he's Rain Man. He's Rain Man when it comes to the engine and the editor and all that sort of stuff. And I'll be totally honest, he's the person I go to if I kind of just need to think out loud, because I haven't got an assistant and haven't got kind of anybody doing it with us, and kind of lean on him a little bit if I need to think out loud and say, listen, what's your thoughts on this? And to be fair to him, even though he's an opposition manager, he's always very, very good at saying, yeah, I can see your logic, or no, I think you're chatting absolute wham. But yeah, when this clicks, that this Leddersford side will be solid and impressive and win 2-0 and 3-0 and 1-0. I just think he's one of a couple of teams, myself included, that hasn't really been able to put the bits that he's brought in the summer together with what he had last season and find something that works properly.
Looking at the team for tonight then, obviously, as I said, Van Nistelrooy picked up the injury last time out, so a gap comes back in the attacking midfield position. Now, last time this didn't necessarily work particularly well, and there was some suggestions that, because it's the same too, that you would maybe swap him and Etsaburia around. What would your take be on that?
I think definitely get the best of him. He's kind of wide on the right. I think from an editor kind of point of view, I think he drops off a couple stats wise when you put him into EMC, although Dan will either confirm or make me look that I don't know as much as he does. And again, he finished higher than me last season, so I'll take this with a pinch of salt, but you know, he brought Nicky Ferenko in. For me, it's almost like kind of do or die with him. I think you bring them in, you nearly kind of colours to the mast, and you'd be playing him EMC in the hope that there's still some of the kind of usual Nicky Ferenko magic in there, regardless of what his stats imply.
And someone playing in his position, Ronaldinho, he seems to go through spells where we're either talking about him every week or not talking about him at all. I mean, he had the first season of this incarnation, he was very good for Devils and a virtual ever present. Then he completely went off the boil. He went to Leddersford as part of that transfer. Then last season we seem to be talking about him a lot, but he's not really had a mention in the opening couple of games of this season. He's a very hot and cold player, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's probably in a nutshell kind of illustrates, you know, the point in terms of Dan's brought Constantino on, brought him in. Sorry, he's had a couple of goals, and I don't think it'll be long if kind of Lettersford's shots and goals drought continues. I don't think it'll be long until we see a return of the famous Ronaldinho backward arrow up top, because that, he got 10 goals last season and a number of assists with that. So I don't think it'll be too long that that we'll see that come back in if Lettersford continue to kind of fire blanks, really.
And so we look at Churchtown next. Again, another team in the same position of yourselves, a win, a draw, and a loss. 0 goal difference, having scored 3 and conceded 3. You've already referred to it earlier tonight as a work in progress at Churchtown. What do you make of the development that you've seen so far this season compared to where he was last season?
I think the performance 11 look a million miles away from what he inherited. And I think of all the kind of new managers, Dimble has probably done, well, he has, not probably, Dimble's done the best to make his side more competitive than what he inherited.
Would Tato not go under that bracket as well, potentially?
Yeah, but Tato had a little bit longer, didn't he? Tato kind of had, I think, about half a season extra. I think it was kind of halfway through season 2 where Tato got the reins. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Tato and Dimble are working miracles with what they inherited. Absolutely, I say it all the time. I know I got a couple of shocked faces when I said that about Alf and his mystery men the other night, but it's fair game. It's a fair point. But yeah, this Churchtown side, Dimble's really, really good at putting tactics together that maximise the ability and performance of the players he has. Mm-hmm. He does saves with 3 sides. He does saves with German sides. This Churchtown side will perform better than they should because of the tactics he submitted.
The changes from last time out, from memory, Davis coming into the holding midfield role next to Tomasi, and Santa Cruz has also come in that AM role behind Palermo. Santa Cruz is one that a few people speak about over the course of a season. Again, he's reaching that point now where he's not a youth player. He's not hit peak yet. But when you look at those stats, is he developing in something that could become a useful tool for Dimble to unleash throughout the season?
Yeah, I think so. For all the kind of good work that Dimble's done, I think he'll probably still be slightly frustrated that he hasn't fully managed to kind of solve who's going to get him the 15 goals or who's going to get him the 10 goals and the 5 assists. And I think, he definitely needs Palermo to start firing pretty soon. And if Santa Cruz can do that job in EM, then he'll be a much happier man than he was last season.
And your score prediction for this one, please?
I think this is a bit of a ball draw. I think 1 each.
1 each, okay. Let's kick this one off and see if you are correct. Lettersford looking to score early, but the chance doesn't go. Coming forward again, seeing John Terry having to get involved. And Lettersford do score, and it's that man that you mentioned, Constantino, with his 2nd goal of the season.
I absolutely love Constantino. I think of all the players in the Super League, I think he's 2. Wow, total fluke.
I was going to say that was a total fluke, it said by Sabria, but it is 2. And another red card.
Professional foul, Ronaldinho.
That's ridiculous. Ronaldinho's never fouled anyone in his life.
That is mental. That's now 5 tonight.
And we're only on game 5 as well.
Yeah. Crazy.
I imagine Dan will probably keep it as it is. He's not one for necessarily moving people central, unless he moves in central but keeps his arrow on. Possibly will be the other thing he considers. But yeah, so 2-0 up, but a man down now.
Yeah, 2-0 up. He could be dropping a gut into MC and taking arrows off. And just trying to kind of sit on that. But I don't know how many minutes have been played there. Oh, they're 34 minutes. Yeah. I mean, he could just pull a gap back and try and sit on it. And Danny might try and do that, but I'm not 100% sure.
And we don't normally do tactical changes. It's more personnel. Yeah. You could, obviously, if someone in centre midfield had been sent off, then yes, you could pull someone back. But as it's an attacking midfielder, we wouldn't necessarily move an attacking midfielder back to defend it.
Yeah, I still so that's why I've anytime I get a red card, I've got to kind of ask it.
That's all right.
What's the crack?
Normally, every now and then, Ryan still shouts at me in the chat, say you can't do this. But I will allow the diagonal arrow from Petkov, as it's essentially the same as what you had, and it is filling the gap that's been raised. So I will allow that change.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's change without moving it.
So just over the half hour then, as we say. Dan's arguing with himself about whether he's allowed it or not. Don't worry, I'll just make it up as I go along, as I have done since I've taken the reins. I'm probably showing about as much consistency as the referees in the Premier League do with some of my decisions. But we reach half-time. Churchtown do find themselves 2-0 down. Again, though, look at the stats. Ledesford, 3 on target, 2 goals. Churchtown create the same amount, 2 on target, but no goals. So it's not as if Ledesford are completely outplaying them. It's just a very, to coin my own phrase, it's a very meh performance from Churchtown, isn't it?
It is, but the stats, the match stats, that should be a 0-0, really, shouldn't it? You know, other than just Ledesford being ridiculously clinical. Same frustration for Dimble, though. You know, he's playing against the side that have took 2 chances and he hasn't took any.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I don't know what more he could be doing. Players are in the right position. He's backed his man Palermo, and it just isn't happening.
Davis is the he's come in today, and he is the highest rated performance so far. Just looking, Luke Chadwick got man of the match last time out, and he's doing bits. He's completed over half his passes. He's won all of his tackles. They're just not really, as far as I can tell looking at this, they're just not able to maintain any sort of pressure in the attacking areas of the pitch.
And Ledesford many anyway. So it's probably a combination of Churchtown's kind of goal scoring woes plus how solid Dan sets up his teams to be. Don't score many, but don't concede many either.
So he's changing the attacking triangle at half-time. Santa Cruz moving up top, Stanic coming on for Palermo, and then Christian Tim coming on for Petrov. Do you see that as an upgrade, or is it just a case of trying something to get something to click?
Yeah, I think, you know me, and manage at half time. I do like a change depending on how the game's going, because the game at 45 is different to the game that was being played at 0 minutes.
Yep.
And the stats are there for a reason, to kind of give you an indication as to that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of proactive half-time changes. So hopefully it can at least get them back into the game.
As for Ledesford, as we click onto their stats, they do have the 2-goal cushion, but being a man down, would that concern you at this point when you see, as you've already alluded to, Dimble is another one who is able to devise tactics. So there may be something in what he's doing that might be better suited to playing against 10 men.
I think if he could choose one of his 11 that would get a red, he would probably choose Ronaldinho, because I think, you lose Ronaldinho and you're only losing that attacking threat, and he's 2-0 up and he probably doesn't need it.
Yep.
So I actually think that the red card probably isn't going to impact on this game much, because of how solid everything is behind Ronaldinho, and also because he wasn't particularly involved anyway. 34 minutes in, he'd only had 6 touches of the ball really. So a little bit of fortune there for Dan in terms of the person who's been sent off probably being his pick if they were sent off.
Well, Nicky Ferenko is coming on at half time for Didier Agat, which I consider something of an attacking change, really.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
Let's kick off. That is not the case at all. Let's see how those subs affect the gameplay. Plenty of white and light blue text in the opening 5-10 minutes, but Ugo Ekiog now has picked up an injury. No actual centre-backs on the bench. Do you see Addo moving back, or possibly Pasasoglu, maybe more suited because it's the right side? And then Hargreaves coming on?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the only thing that makes sense, really, isn't it? And Dan will have his own personal preferences.
Dan would have had something scouted ready for this, and we'll see Alex move to centre-back, probably. Yeah,
these two in the league are definitely the two managers that are kind of like spreadsheet managers. These are definitely like sports science managers. Like Dimble once screen shared with us whilst he was doing a bit of Super League prep. There was about 15 windows open, all of which were like a slightly more complicated spreadsheet than the last. So these are two definite like stat mad kind of managers. So Dan will have a plan for this. Hargreaves on with Pat back and Petkov in DM.
So we're going like that. Ekiog and Hargreaves into centre midfield. There we go. So you're right, I was completely wrong this time. Let's see if the tactical change caused by that injury gives Churchtown any additional belief. Petkov picking up a yellow card as we move past the hour mark, and Van Bommel's been sent off.
Jesus.
God's sake, I can't take any more red cards. Sorry?
This is just mental now. This is like...
this is beyond a joke. At least one thing, because the thing with Super League I always found is, although we spend all this time and everyone loves the transfers, as you know, but realistically people don't utilise their squads so much, in my opinion, because you have your starting 11 and generally speaking that's your 11 for the season, because no one really gets that many injuries and suspensions. So I'm enjoying the fact that people are actually having to utilise squads a little bit more.
Yeah, fair point. I like using squad players just to kind of, I like using players that maybe, you know, I wouldn't necessarily use on home saves, or that other people wouldn't necessarily use, much to my detriment the last season or so. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good point that, you know, suspensions and cards kind of force people's hands a little bit to reimagine things.
Dimble going for the attacking change, moving to Marcy forward to cover the gap, but it's not really having the desired effect thus far. And there is the full-time whistle. Leddersford maintaining their 2-goal advantage. Churchtown was certainly the more productive in that second half, but it's almost a case of same old story for them, isn't it? Just failing to convert their chances.
Yeah, Dimble would have... That was, you know, 15 shots on target from Leddersford, and Churchtown had only had one. I think he'd have much preferred a kind of a rout of a 2-0 like Fulchester with me last week.
Yep.
I think to see that the chances and not being able to convert, he's definitely sitting there going, you know, what more can I do to actually get these guys to back of the net, really.
And just picking up on some of the comments there, Ian Edwards saying carnage, Steve Wright saying crazy evening, and Ian saying Fifey get every club complaining about these words that I can't say on a live broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just every club wants to put in a complaint, whether they've had a man sent off or not. They just want fairness across the league. You mentioned obviously where the frustrations will be for Dimble, but if you look at the individual ratings compared to the match stats, although he will be frustrated, can he take some positives? You know, that's individual player ratings are good, performances are good. You know, the only player who was on the pitch at the end of the game who rated 6 or lower was the sub, so that might explain why his performance wasn't necessarily their highest rating.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad performance, so although they've lost and there'll be frustrations there, the fact that it wasn't a bad performance is something to build on, isn't it?
But the issue is, it confirms what he already knows. It confirms that he's kind of, you know, 8 of those players are solid and won't let him down. But actually, the 3 players that need to kind of get him wins are just not turning up. So, yeah, totally see where you're coming from. Really solid, but it confirms what he already knew. You know, has he got the players at his disposal in the final third to do anything different to what he's doing now, or does he just need to kind of sit, ride it out, and hope his luck changes from a game engine point of view? Is that that must be one of Churchtown's only home defeats?
Yes, their home form since Dimble took over has been well documented. I think that's possibly the 3rd in his tenure now.
Yeah.
We click over to the Leddersford stats. Esperia picking up man of the match. For the stat fans, Ekiog's condition after his injury is 37%. Which I'm sure will prompt Steve to say Finnan's was about 38, so he'll be out for the season.
Yeah, Constantine was just, you know, totally unfashionable, totally not a headline, you know, name, and just never lets you down.
And now the conversation in the chat has gone to Jens wanting a complaint in about the lack of penalties being given, and Ian suggesting that he doesn't think he's had one on the whole save, which I think Jens was the only one who hadn't had one until last season, penalty. So I think you might be slightly exaggerating there. Yes. As for Ledesford, their form themselves has been slightly inconsistent, and that's not the first red card they've had this season either. But are they, again, thinking back to all the positives you said about Dan and looking at what they did last season, do you think they're knocking on the door of some consistent form to be part of that group that you alluded to earlier that might start pulling away?
Yeah, and you know, he's having these questions that he needs to kind of overcome 4 games in instead of 15 games in or 16 games in. You know, this is time to really use the first 5, 6, 7, 8 games to kind of find out if the players that you brought in are working. Big chance now to see what he does with Nicky Ferenko, with Ronaldinho being suspended. If he now gets a run and he gives him a chance to kind of see what he can do next game, or you know, if up top. Ledesford a quality front of back, and Dan probably knows this game engine better than anybody else in the league, really.
Ronaldinho's red card was a professional foul because he shoved Palermo. The other red card, Van Bommel made a sliding tackle but took the man rather than the ball, and got a second yellow, so that was probably fair to send him off. No, that is the last game. So we go to Halls versus Astor, two of the sides who, I believe you said at the start during the introduction phase, are two of the sides that, particularly Astor, have impressed you so far this season. And for the traditionalists and particularly the diehard Astor fans, they'll be glad to see the return of the asymmetric formation.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot we disagree as managers. I think the one thing we can agree on is that you know, if manager of the season was a rolling kind of week by week thing, Tate would be in the mix like all the time, because it just shouldn't be getting the output that he gets out of these players on a week to week basis. And you know, very nearly kind of spoiled the party at the playoffs last season, bar a couple of wobbly results at the back end, and you know, key injuries to the likes of ZZ Roberts and those sorts of things. And I think he's definitely in the kind of Dan mega horse mold. He's a student of the game. You know, he studies it. He does lots of testing. I think that his kind of main game, I can't remember if his main game CM3 or 97, 98. I can't remember what he said, but I know CM0102 isn't his kind of go-to champ, or he's the one that he was brought up on. So he's definitely now everybody else by knowing it inside out and getting results on the pitch.
So a couple of players of interest for me in this team, as was well documented, and as I showed while you were talking there, Vrede got a red card in the last game, but randomly hasn't been suspended for this one. We have a debut in terms of the young German signed this window. He comes in for his debut also at centre back. And Chun Su, who has had to bide his time after his move from Northern Byrne, he gets to start as well.
Is that rugby? Is that like a collar regen or someone?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you because Tato specifically asked for him.
Yeah. What, Krug? Yeah, like his actual name?
Yeah.
All right. He didn't get you to search on like 4 key stats or anything, no?
No. He specifically asked. Whether this is someone that had been pointed out to him in the past, I don't know. But he specifically asked for him by name.
It must be, because he says collar looks terrible, so it must be somebody else. That Vrede, did you appeal the suspension or anything?
Nope. Because everyone only gets banned for 1 game, and as I already alluded to, I enjoy seeing you guys actually utilise the squads. I never appeal the red cards.
Yeah, okay. And it wasn't repealed, sorry, like automatically by the FA or anything, no?
No, because that's the sort of stuff that would normally get shared by the CM Super League Twitter, because it's news that you guys like to know. Yeah,
really solid kind of back 2-4, and that front 4, all quite mercurial players. You know, they're not exactly star-studded players that are going to get you 30 goals a season, but if they turn up, Roberts and Riyad, I love that combo, Roberts and Riyad. It's him, right? Okay, Ryan found him on the save, so Ryan's must have Tato's must have sent the key stats to Ryan, pre-Ryan leaving. Ryan's then found him, told Tato his name, and then Tato told you he was get him. That makes sense. Yeah. I thought it was a regen because of the 4 key stats. But yeah, good shout. Interesting
And
to see how
he is also very young to be developed like that, and for Tato to know him. So that is Asta, who, as we say again, one of the undefeated sides. Their playing Hools are also one of the 3 undefeated sides. As I click onto their team, do we expect all 3 of them to still be undefeated, and therefore you're going to predict this will be a draw?
Yes. Yeah.
So just the one change from memory for Hools. Vogel drops back into defensive midfield in place of Gerrard. Ricardinho comes in and Gerrard drops to the bench. I will swap that before kickoff, Tato, for you. No worries at all. So yes, Hools are a team that took a fair amount of stick last season for finishing way below par on where they should have done. They've had a fairly good start to this campaign. Jens is perhaps slightly more pessimistic than we're used to because of what happened last year, and keeps saying that he's expecting it to fall apart sooner rather than later. But really, when you see the nature of their performances so far this season, and you see their 1-11 on paper, can you see them maybe getting their act together this year and making a real fist of it?
100%. And that goes against kind of what my pre-season prediction thread was. But I'd be an absolute tit if I didn't revise it once I'd seen performances and setups. Hools look very, very, very solid this season. Hools were always a team that could turn you over 3-0, but then get done 3-0 the next week. I think this is the first time in kind of 3 iterations where I think Hools look really, really solid front to back. And actually the fact that he's able to drop Gerrard and bring in Ricardinho and still look just as solid is kind of credit to what he's done this season. That front 3 of Hersey, Brozek and Crespo is up there with any front 3 in the league.
And I think it was important for him. Obviously, there was a lot of talk again last season about Crespo and Van Nistelrooy not being able to play together. So just sort of nailing his flag to Crespo and saying, "You're my guy," and then having Hersey and Brozek behind him. Again, I agree with you. I think looks like a very strong triangle.
Yeah, season 4 Bros just absolutely incredible, especially with how the stats have developed on this save with the training facilities and all that sort of stuff. He's an absolute beast, and he hasn't really kind of put numbers out in terms of performances yet, but it'll come.
Absolutely. So you've already said it'll be a draw. Are we saying 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, 7-7?
I think a draw. I think something like 2-2, 3-3. I think.
You wanted red as captain. There you go. So Tato saying I will take a draw here. Let's kick this one off, the penultimate game of the evening, and see what we have on offer. Plenty of drama already, and a nice early yellow card on his debut for the German centre-back. Are we going to go with Krug? Is that how we're going to pronounce it, do you think?
Yeah.
And Lilian Thuram scores his first of the season. Scally picks up a yellow card. It's another yellow card. There's definitely not going to end with 22 players on the pitch in this game. I'm sure this is this referee's second game of the night as well, and he's already sent someone off, at least one player off. We're approaching half-time. Hall's still in the lead, 1-0. And it's now 1-1. Easy Roberts. And Rayed was given the armband and has talked his way into a second yellow and a red card. For fuck's sake.
This is nuts.
I'm sure Ryan has fucked with this save before sending it to me, just so that I have to try and explain why I'm getting, 7 red cards in one night now. This is ridiculous. I quite fancy Tato to just leave it as it is. I know as soon as I'll press OK, it'll be half-time anyway, but I expect him to leave it as it is.
I think he might drop Thierry back. Oh, no, leaves it.
Well, leave it as it is till half-time. Yeah, I'll allow it as it's the 48th minute anyway. Crespo missing the last chance of the half. There is half-time. Tato, I agree, this is a piss take. I've lost count of how many red cards. And again, look, we're having very entertaining. Do you remember last year? A lot of Super League games were having like 3 chances on goal in the first half. That's certainly not the case this year.
Yeah, and again, two sides that are where they are on merit and are very similar in terms of the performances. I think both managers would be happy with a point if this was to play out at full time.
Well, Tato, without even seeing his stats, so as he's already suggested stuff, I will click on the away team first this time. Ian making a point, all these red cards and Keane stayed on the pitch. Very true, because I mean, I think the referees have just decided, because last year he picked up a lot of red cards. I think the rest of the league are just picking up his share of red cards now. So it's Vashuk on for... There we go.
Again, protecting the yellow.
So it's something you're infamous for. So that change has been confirmed. Looking through the rest of the stats, anything that automatically jumps out at you there for Asta?
No, I think Scally continues to prove some of his doubters wrong, that he can kind of play and compete at this level. I know there's probably a 60-40 split in terms of whether he can, he can't, in terms of the league and people who watch. But I've never seen him kind of let Tato down, really. Fair enough, he doesn't get 8s and 9s in man of the matches, but in terms of the kind of tackles and headers, passes, he's very good. I do like the signing of Johnson as well. I think he's a class player on this game.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with that. Do you agree with the second sub that's been made, Rossini coming on for Chunsu?
Yeah, I don't know. Tate will know them better than me. I don't know both players well enough to kind of comment on that. There'll be something in it.
Well, let's have a look then at the home side's stats. The man you described as a beast, only rating a 6 during that first half. Sol Campbell, surprisingly as well. He's missed a 8/9 every game, but we are only at half time. Ricardinho struggling to have an impact in that centre midfield position on his own. Would you be considering maybe bringing Gerrard on at half time for Ricardinho, looking at that?
I would protect the odds. You know what I would do? And if my DMs are sitting on a yellow, I'd probably be either pulling Milewski off for Stevie or putting Milewski as a DML so he's not maybe making as many tackles and drop somebody else in. I think based on how tonight's went, there's going to be another red in this.
Maka pointing out a very good point. When you look at all these red cards, none of them are to actual hatchet men.
Yeah, and none of them kind of, not many of them were kind of double yellow bad tackles. A lot of them were kind of pushes or professional fouls. Really strange.
So he's kind of reverting back, Jens, to what he did last time. So Vogel's going into centre midfield and Ricardinho's being replaced by Gerrard. So this is what he started with last time out.
Yeah, and Gerrard scores the winner. Seen that too many times.
Well, let's see how all of those substitutions by both sides affect the second half of this game. Another yellow card given out there. And Gerrard gets a yellow card and a potential big injury there. Brozek. That's got to be for Viduka, you'd imagine. Unless, of course, Gerrard maybe moves right, like really far forward and Baldini comes on.
I think the physical, a good shout.
Interesting to see what Jens does here, but another player identified, and he's dropping Crespo into AM and moving Viduka as the target man. Smart move, would you agree?
Yeah, I like that.
Not even at the hour point yet, and both teams have had to significantly adjust what they're doing. Hall's coming forward, and we're down to 15. Let's slow this down then, see if we get a winner. Powerful header by Crespo, but it doesn't force a save. It's gone wide. And here come Asta again with Henri. And now Vashuk, and it goes to far post, but Costanzo gets there. And now Gerrard, Milewski, Viduka getting involved. Rossini intercepting, doing his defensive work. We move into the final 5 minutes. Nothing much happening there. Vogel picks it up, but Scally with a good tackle. And it's Henri. Strikes in fury, saved, and Henri on the rebound, but another good save by the goalkeeper. 3 minutes to be added on, which we move into now. It's a throw in, and Asta come forward in injury time, and Henri, Roberts, but it's a free kick to Halls. Roberts is furious. He gets himself a yellow card. A lot of people talking themselves into bookings tonight, I noticed as well.
Yeah. both of them will be happy with that. I think Asta more so, but I think they'll have both took a point pre-kick-off to stay undefeated.
Absolutely. Hull's shading it slightly, but I think on reflection of just those match stats, a draw was probably fair. Tato, agreeing with what you said there, take that all day long, well played. And Jens replaying that compliment. Let's have a look at the home side first then. Candea picking up man of the match for his performance. Both the subs coming on and having a relatively good impact, particularly in considering who they replaced and their performances up to that point. Again, I think to mimic what you've already said, particularly leading up and in half time, it looks just very solid from Halls, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're not going to lose games with eights from that four, and sevens or eights from the back two. Halls are going to be definitely in amongst it this season. I think the key thing for Jens will be when he does hit a rough patch, because he will, because everybody does, when he loses maybe 2 or 3 on the spin, if he can just kind of keep the faith with what he's got. Asta, kind of a slightly different story in terms of Tato's plan is to definitely rotate people in and out, but both teams of these two and Dudley have probably been three sides that have really impressed us this season relative to what I expected of them, and I'm happy to give me words.
And as I click over to Asta, for those who, again, enjoy that sort of thing, Brozek's fitness is on 65, so people won't be expecting a big injury from that one. Moving on to Asta, and as you've already said, much improved. I can see Tato's put there in the chat as well. They don't look like conceding shitloads like they did last season, which is refreshing from his perspective. Again, both subs coming on and having a relatively good impact. Joey Johnson, the player who you mentioned at the start, probably Asta's key man throughout. And another decent, it's not the best looking away performance we've seen tonight, but it's certainly not an awful performance by their standards.
No, a couple of things kind of jump out for me. Scally, again, being the beast that he is. Numbers all across that column there. Vrede, who shouldn't have played, having an absolute blinder. Vashchuk, that sub at half time to bring Vashchuk on was a really smart move from Tato, because he's came on and he's been really, really solid and twice the player that Krug was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So congratulations to both teams on maintaining your unbeaten starts to the season. And that, my good friend, leads us on to the main event of the evening. And it's nice that the game has started with you. So we know you're lacking considerably in your attacking options. Panardi, Collins, Madeira, all injured for this one. Talk us through your team, including your choice of making Smertin captain for this one.
Yes, Smertin is kind of a no-brainer really, in terms of very, very good since he's came in, and also he's kind of his leadership stats or professionalism and all that sort of stuff are very good. We were the only side, I think, to beat Devils home and away last season and to not concede against Devils home and away, and it was something similar to this that we went with, which was it was basically accepting that their DM line and their MC and their AMCs were far better than anything we could have put out, and we had to try and kind of play ugly, and it worked. I'm not so sure it's going to work tonight, just because Hodgie has kind of looked better in terms of on paper, I think, this season. Before I quite matched it, but definitely a better 11 front to back if that was possible, because it was a very, very good 11 anyway, and they've got Impenza back. So the plan will be to sit in to keep this 0-0 as long as possible, and hope Christian Vieri can get on the score sheets and get rolling late on.
And are you looking for your the likes of Smertins, Elias, Ferdinand, Okoronkwo to do a very similar job to what Steve's guys managed to do with Sigalko, limit him to virtually nothing when it comes to Impenza?
Yeah, the problem for me with Gazelles has been we've been solid. Even last season, we were very solid. We were difficult to beat. We did go on runs every now and again where we kind of lost 2 or 3 on the bounce. But generally speaking, when the first 11 was out, really, really confident in that kind of back six. My issue has been what has been in front of it, and the entire transfer business was based on bringing big guns up top in Vieri, Tomad, and Davy Collins. it's a shame that we haven't got 2 out of those 3, but everybody's going to experience that as the season goes on. But with Vieri and Tomad up top, one DM, one AMC, and Davy Collins as the AMC, this 11 looks a million miles better than what I've put out tonight. So I'll take a point right now, but we hope we can do a smash and grab.
Concerned that Vieri hasn't got off the mark yet?
No, it'll come. And I've moved him around. I've changed his instructions. I've played him in a 1. I've played him in a 2 because of the injuries that I've had. So it's as much to do with me as anybody else that he hasn't got off the mark.
So the big team news is that Frey suspended after his red card last time out. As you said, Mpenza returns to the team. And the interesting slight tactical tweak, Soroczynski comes in to hold in midfield, and Emerson moves right forward to play in the AM position alongside Amar.
Yeah, and eyes are immediately drawn to Montero, Nesta, Zauri, Van Bronco, Soroczynski, Dyer. It doesn't really matter what you've got ahead of that, because those guys are not going to have you out for too many games, other than the odd dodgy performance and the red cards that he's suffered. And Aymar has been someone who a lot of people had a lot of questions over when he kind of first was signed, but was very, very good last season, and probably is going to do the same again this season, and probably is going to do the same again tonight, really. So I'm not confident at all. Yeah.
And it's always worth every now and then just reminding everyone just how good Kieran Dyer has been in this save.
Phenomenal. Incredible.
Unbelievably consistent, as well as putting out good performances and picking up key goals and assists from time to time. The consistency is unreal. See Richard Wright between the sticks as a downgrade?
Yeah, 100%. A glimmer of hope. Although Costanzo can put the odd 5 or 4 in, as most keepers can. But a little glimmer of hope that he hasn't got his first choice keeper, because I think everybody in this league, the downgrade between first choice and second grade keepers in this league, probably more so than any other position, is massive.
And on a night where we've seen about 700 red cards already, Hodgie pointed out that he hasn't finished a game with 11 men once this season yet. Are you hoping / expecting that to continue?
No, because I've had a couple of reds. I think I've had 2 reds. I'm not sure, but I'd like him to try and even up the odds and go down to 10 men. That would be much appreciated. But we've been miles better away from home than we have at home, so I'm more confident away from home than I am at home. Just hopefully this doesn't turn into a hammering, because it feels like that from my side.
No, very well. Well, I won't ask you to predict. I know a lot of people don't like to predict their own games, so I will just say good luck, as well as I say good luck to Hodgie. Let's hope the final game of the evening produces more drama and excitement for those watching. And Devils waste absolutely no time in taking the lead. And now Barry Ferguson's doubled it on 17 minutes. Wow. This could be a long, long night for Gazelles. But on saying that, Vieri does get his first of the season, pulls one back already. Van Bronckhorst makes it 3-1. Goals galore in this first half. We're not even at half an hour yet. And another is 4-1. Emerson scores. And Zayaleus picks up a yellow card. Devils looking for more in this first half. 40 minutes now on the clock as another chance goes. And an injury for Zauri. Wow, let's take a minute to catch our breaths. A one-word reaction to what you've seen so far?
Shite. What expected.
In terms of the change, I expect Harry Kuehl to be brought on. I would normally look at Van Bronckhorst, but I don't think even dropping Ferguson in, there's anyone, unless he puts Kuehl maybe in the centre midfield position. But I think he'll go with Kuehl. Have we seen Hodgie in the chat for a while, or is he working?
No, he was in it.
I'm just scrolling back through because I can't remember last time I actually saw his name. I've not actually seen his name for a little while. I don't know if he's still here. We'll give him a minute just to confirm. If not, I'll have to... Oh, there he is. Kuehl on, please, and swap with Emerson. Like that. And then like that. And surely he must want that as well. But he hasn't asked for that, so I'll undo that one for now. I'll give him 30 seconds to confirm if that's what he wants to do. Obviously not an ideal first half performance from your team as it stands at the moment. Are you already at the point of kind of writing it off, or are you thinking nothing else come through from Hodgie, or do you still see if you can get another goal before half time, you're still in this?
No, this is done from minute 17, really.
And there is the half-time whistle. Devils 6 shots, 6 on target, 4 goals. Gazelles 2 shots, 1 on target, 1 goal. So you're, yeah, I will allow it. There you go. Let's have a look then at Devils stats. Richard Wright not impressing. He's had very little to do, and what he did do wasn't very good. But the stats for the rest of the players, really, I mean, Zowry before his injury was rating a 10, which is a very unusual in the first half. You've got Barry Ferguson there getting a 9, and Penza getting a 9. He's normally quiet first half and wakes up second half. It's been relentless, really, from Devils, hasn't it? And I suppose from your perspective, it's as frustrated and possibly slightly angry as you are looking at this, you're kind of taking your hat off to Hodgie and saying that's incredible.
Of course, absolutely. It's a phenomenal 11 front to back. It made the mistake of trying to blitz full Chester the game before, and then probably have made the mistake here in being too passive. But you don't know until you click play. But yeah, listen, this Devils side is class, and Hodgie, took him a good few games at the start of his tenure as a Devils manager to find his best 11, but he's definitely found that now and definitely is rolling along. But that is an absolute shambles. That is probably the second game on the bounce where Ferdinand's had a stinker, and Medina again. I really thought he could maybe step up a little bit this season, but he's been absolutely shocking. So we'll make 2 changes, please, Fifey, if that's all right.
No worries. What would you like to do?
So we will go Medina for Bas Turk. In fact, actually, Medina for Guy Helmier, if that's all right.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm guessing move him
Chop
forward.
That in. Yeah. And then if we can hire Udetzi on for Rio.
No worries at all. There we go. Nothing else coming through yet from Hodgie. Ian saying hate keepers on this game. Unusual, obviously. Vulgaris last time out got man of the match, and now he's rating a 4. It just shows the inconsistency keepers do have, doesn't it?
Yeah, and probably was the Elias, I think.
Sorry, mate, your signal broke up just then. I think you're going to make a point about Elias.
Yeah, it's probably a red card coming for him, I think.
Right, nothing else has come through from Hodgie since confirming that tactical change. So we'll kick off the second half and see what more goals this game can give us. Vieri picking up a yellow card. Oh, there goes the as-is as we hit the hour mark. Devils coming forward again, still looking for that 5th goal. But Gazelles pull another one back through Volodenkov. If it's all right with you, I'm not going to slow it down, especially as Mpenza scores his 2nd and Devils 5th. A yellow card given there as we move into the final 10 minutes. And it's 6. Barry Ferguson getting his 2nd of the night. 3 minutes to be added on. And another yellow card, this time for Zarachinsky. And not only have Devils won, and convincingly so, but they've actually managed to keep 11 men on the pitch as well. Congratulations to Hodgie, but I mean, the only positive I can give you is, again, you were ruthlessly efficient with your chances.
Yeah, I just need my best attackers on the pitch. The damage of kind of when you've traded 2 players for 1 player and then they don't play. I just need my best 11 on the pitch. Long season, still a long way to go. Well played, Hodgie. That was really, really, really impressive. That.
Barry Ferguson getting man of the match, and Penn's also getting a 10. 3 players there, including the injured Zowry, rating 10s. Teo saying that was Fifey-esque. No, that was 100% Hodgie, that one. For the injury fans, Zowry's on 41. There's not much that you can really say other than that was just fantastic. Kieran Dyer rating a 9. Richard Wright managing to rate a 5. In a night where Devils were that good, he still managed to be awful. Harry Kuehl coming on and rating a 7. And I will just give you the chance to reflect on what I'm guessing we'll just call it a bad day at the office.
awful day at the office, but absolutely outplayed in every single department. And to be fair to Hodgie, it's ominous if, we haven't been particularly great this season, so it probably, isn't as impressive as if it was against the full Chester, that sort of stuff. But that if Hodgie gets this devil side clicking, that's the Haydens that they can dish out for fun every week, because of the talent they've got. Two games in 2 weeks where I've been absolutely outplayed in every single department. So yeah, well played.
And but for the neutrals, a very interesting and entertaining end to what has been a controversial, entertaining, and I don't think there's enough superlatives to describe what's happened at times this season. I'm just going to have a quick flick through as we go through the classifieds. It's okay, just to count out how many red cards there were. So there's 2 there in the 1-1 draw. There's another 2 there in Leddersford's 2-0 win. So that's 4. 5 Ryan Giggs in the full Chester Dragons draw. Another one there for Rayed in Hull's 1, Astor 1. So that's 6. None in the Byrne Dudley game. And the 7th red card was Danielson in Sloths 3, Haggis 1. 7 red cards in one night. Just having a look. A lot of draws tonight. If I remember rightly, last time out there was no home wins. Yep, we got a couple of home wins tonight. Just the 1 away win, and that was Leddersford. Everyone bar 3 teams managing to score. So plenty of drama this evening for us to commentate on. And that leaves us in this situation. Devils now sit top of the tree. 4 games, 3 wins and 1 defeat, 12 scored, 8 conceded. Northern Byrne a point further back. Then Sloths, Fulchester and Bostock further point back. Then we've got 3 sides, Astor, Hulls and Leddersford all on 6. Before 4 teams on 4 points. Gazelles there, Churchtown, Haggis, Dudley. Dragons on 2 points. Only scored 2 goals, the lowest in the league so far. And one of only 2 teams without a win. They're still a point ahead of Loco. As we click on the next round of fixtures, I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight, Duggan. What's your overall take? Let's take your game aside for the moment. What's your overall take on the evening's entertainment?
Yeah, brilliant. I think really interested to see what Hulls and Astor do this season, because they're definitely the kind of the 2 teams, along with Dudley probably, that have piqued me interest in terms of not expecting the level of performance that we've seen from them. Mm-hmm. But Devils looked fantastic tonight. Byrne look incredible. Fulchester will click properly and get running, and it'll be about the rest of us in terms of scrambling for kind of any playoff positions that are still going, really, which doesn't look likely for Gazelles at the minute. But yeah, in terms of kind of the graphics and stuff, if anybody's got any suggestions or stuff they'd like to see or things they'd like to kind of change or anything like that, like I'm totally not precious and totally receptive. If Ian can chuck us the 2 PNGs and I'll get them changed over for next week.
Look at that, 14 red cards already this season.
That's class.
Listen, a lot of praise again is worth pointing out for the graphics that you mentioned there. So thank you again for that. And as you say, if anyone has any suggestions, you're more than happy to amend it. I know it's something you're going to be working on for me throughout the season as we look to keep it all updated and stuff. And I can't thank you enough for your efforts there. Ian in particular, Ian Campbell, mentioned earlier how good you are as co-coms. And he's mentioned here again, I've seen in one of these comments, taken out very well, Duggan, being on comms, I'd be inconsolable. So thank you again for the professionalism that you managed to put out as well there, mate. It's very much appreciated. But most importantly, just thank you for coming on and being an excellent co-commentator as normal.
No, cheers as always, Fifey, and Happy New Year to you all, lads. All the best.